I'd like to introduce to you today John Haran, who works with the Circle of Friends there to help these refugees.
Hello, my name's John Haran and I'm a member of the Henley Beach Catholic Parish in South Australia. I'd like to speak to you today about refugees and asylum seekers. This is one of the biggest issues facing Australia today, and indeed facing the world, as people move within their home countries and outside their home countries to flee violence, torture and war. In Australia we have a trickle of these people coming to be with us, and indeed we have a long history of migration and asylum seeking and refugees coming to this land successfully and making successful lives for themselves. We have indeed welcomed these people over the generations, the Vietnamese, Syrians and before that the post-World War II Eastern Europeans. But in the last 2 decades we seem to have hardened our hearts on this issue, and it's really become something that's compromised our values as Australians. Australia was instrumental in the post-Second World War period in developing the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which became the template for the Refugee Convention developed in the 1950s, which many countries signed up to and which we all agreed was the way in which we would treat people coming from escaping torture, trauma and war. Unfortunately, in the last 2 decades, Australia has really compromised itself on these issues, starting with the Tampa issue and the children overboard, through to the spurious claims that these people coming to our shores are queue jumpers, aliens, and are not worthy of our support. And so we've put them in detention in all sorts of places throughout Australia, and indeed in other places in other countries, in Papua New Guinea and Nauru. The issue for us, I think, is that we've been sold a line as Australians, and there's been a very definite campaign over 2 decades of creating the situation where we believe as Australians that these people aren't worthy of coming here. Unfortunately, most Australians don't know the stories of the people. I believe that when they do know those stories that they will respond differently. However, our government has been very good at feeding the line that these people aren't worthy of our support, and indeed it's been left to many communities like the Henley Beach Parish, like other groups like the Circle of Friends, like community groups throughout South Australia and Australia, to pick up the pieces. People have come here with high hopes that they'll seek a safe haven and receive support from the Australian government and the Australian people. But they've been let down. They've been let down by processes that have created uncertainty for them, that have been detrimental to their physical and mental health, that have really enabled them to see an Australia that we wouldn't otherwise see, a harsh Australia that has been borne by the government of the day and has enabled people like ourselves to think, well, are these people worthy? In the next piece of video you'll see Sister Meredith Evans talking a bit about some of the latest developments on that, in terms of the way that we've treated people and the way that we will continue to treat people unless the Australian people decide to do things differently. I think as Australians we need to take control of this situation. We need to be able to form community groups. We need to be able to engage with one another in this rhetoric that is putting people down and putting people in places where we don't want them to be. I think if we know the stories of these people, of their trauma, of their torture, of their harm, then we'll think differently about these issues. So I call upon all of us to reflect on what our government is doing on our behalf and to look at different ways of addressing this issue.